Welcome back to Narrations. The end of the world usually arrives with warning signs. Scientists notice something strange. Governments issue alerts. People have time to panic. But sometimes disaster arrives so quickly that by the time anyone understands what's happening, it's already too late. For Barry, the apocalypse begins as an ordinary day. A day like countless others. He isn't a soldier. He isn't a scientist. He's just a mechanic trying to live a normal life with his family. But before the day is over, everything he knows will be gone. And the dead will be walking the earth. The story begins in Australia. During the night, strange lights appear in the sky. Bright streaks race across the darkness like falling stars. Most people barely notice. Others stop and stare for a moment before continuing with their lives. Nobody realizes they are witnessing the beginning of a nightmare. The next morning feels normal. People go to work. Families eat breakfast. Traffic fills the roads. Then everything starts falling apart. Reports of violence begin spreading. At first they seem isolated. A fight here. An attack there. Nothing that immediately suggests the end of civilization. But the incidents multiply rapidly. People begin attacking one another without reason. The wounded become attackers themselves. And within hours entire neighborhoods descend into chaos. Barry finds himself trapped in the middle of it. One moment the world is functioning. The next it's collapsing. Confused and terrified survivors run through the streets. Cars crash into one another. Emergency services become overwhelmed. Nobody understands what's happening. Only that something is terribly wrong. As Barry struggles to survive, his thoughts remain focused on one thing. His family. His sister Brooke. The people he loves. He desperately tries reaching them. But communication networks are failing. Phone calls go unanswered. Messages never arrive. The world is becoming disconnected. And isolation is almost as frightening as the undead themselves. Meanwhile, Brooke is experiencing her own nightmare. Unlike Barry, she doesn't get the chance to escape. She's captured by a group of armed men operating in the chaos. At first they appear to be rescuers. Organized survivors trying to restore order. But Brooke quickly discovers the truth. These men aren't interested in saving people. They're interested in studying the outbreak. Using it. Controlling it. She becomes prisoner inside makeshift laboratory run by a strange scientist known simply as Document. Doc isn't interested in morality. He's interested in answers. The apocalypse represents opportunity. And Brooke is about to become one of his experiments. Back on the road, Barry fights his way through increasingly dangerous territory. The infected are everywhere. Some move slowly. Others sprint with terrifying speed. Every encounter feels unpredictable. Every road becomes potential death trap. Along the way he encounters a man named Benny. At first glance Benny appears completely insane. Covered in makeshift armor and carrying an assortment of improvised weapons, he looks like someone who stepped out of a post-apocalyptic action movie. Yet beneath the eccentric exterior lies a capable survivor. Someone who has adapted to the new world remarkably fast. Their first meeting is chaotic. Violent. Filled with misunderstanding. But eventually they realize cooperation offers best chance of survival. The two men form partnership. Not because they trust each other immediately. Because the apocalypse doesn't leave many alternatives. Together they begin traveling across the countryside. And that's when they discover something impossible. One day they encounter a group of trapped zombies. As the creatures thrash and struggle, strange gas pours from their mouths. The gas behaves unlike anything either man has seen before. It's thick. Visible. Almost unnatural. Then an accident reveals its most surprising property. The gas ignites. Instantly. Violently. Creating powerful source of energy. The realization sounds absurd. Yet the evidence is undeniable. The infected aren't just monsters. They're fuel. Benny immediately recognizes the potential. In a world where gasoline is becoming scarce, This discovery changes everything. Soon the pair begin modifying vehicles and equipment, experimenting with ways to harness zombie gas as power source. The result feels almost ridiculous. And yet it works. Cars roar to life. Engines run. Machines operate. Powered by the very creatures trying to kill them. The discovery gives the film one of its most unique ideas. In this apocalypse, zombies aren't merely threat. They're resource. As the journey continues, Barry never loses sight of his goal. Finding Brooke. Every dangerous encounter. Every abandoned road. Every close call. It's all leading toward that objective. He refuses accepting the possibility that she's dead. Refuses giving up hope. And hope becomes a powerful thing in a world where so little remains. Meanwhile, Brooke's situation grows increasingly disturbing. Doc begins conducting experiments involving infected blood. The results reveal something unusual about her. Unlike other survivors, Brooke reacts differently. The infection doesn't fully transform her. Instead, it creates connection. A link between her and the undead. At first, the changes seem minor. Strange sensations. Unusual visions. Then the abilities become impossible ignoring. She can sense zombies nearby. Influence their behavior. Even see through their eyes. The discovery excites Doc enormously. To him, Brooke may represent key to understanding the apocalypse. To Brooke, it feels like losing part of her humanity. The experiments continue. The connection grows stronger. And somewhere beyond the laboratory walls, Barry is getting closer. Closer to the truth. Closer to his sister. And closer to discovering that the zombie outbreak is far stranger than anyone imagined. Because what began as a simple fight for survival is becoming something much bigger. Something tied to the mysterious lights that cross the sky. Something connected to the very nature of the undead. And before this journey is over, Barry and Brooke will find themselves at the center of a nightmare unlike anything they've ever known. Meanwhile, Brooke's situation grows increasingly disturbing. Doc's experiments continue day after day. Every test reveals something impossible. Unlike ordinary survivors, Brooke isn't simply resisting the infection. She's connected to it. At first, the connection feels subtle. A strange sensation. A distant awareness. Almost like hearing whispers carried by the wind. Then the ability becomes stronger. Much stronger. Brooke discovers she can sense nearby zombies. Not just hear them. Not just see them. Actually feel them. As if part of her mind is linked to theirs. The realization terrifies her. Every day she worries she is becoming less human. Yet the powers continue growing. Soon she can influence the infected. Guide them. Control them. Even see through their eyes. To Doc, the discovery is extraordinary. To Brooke, it feels like a nightmare. Because every new ability raises the same question. If she can think like the infected, how long before she becomes one of them? Far away, Barry and Benny continue their journey. The Australian countryside has transformed into a wasteland. Burning vehicles line abandoned highways. Farmhouses sit empty. Entire towns have become ghost settlements filled with wandering dead. Yet somehow the two survivors keep moving. Barry refuses giving up. Every mile brings him closer to Brooke. Every fight strengthens his determination. Benny, meanwhile, embraces the chaos. He treats the apocalypse like a challenge that needs solving. When something breaks, he fixes it. When zombies appear, he fights them. When fuel runs out, he finds another way. Together they make a surprisingly effective team. As they gather information from scattered survivors, a pattern begins emerging. Stories about military activity. Rumors about strange experiments. Whispers about people being taken against their will. Every clue points toward the same location. A heavily guarded compound. And Barry becomes convinced Brooke is being held there. Inside the facility, Brooke finally decides she has had enough. She isn't going to remain a prisoner. She isn't going to let Doc continue treating her like a laboratory animal. Using her growing connection to the infected, she begins fighting back. At first, she tests the limits carefully. Small actions, minor influences, simple commands. The results shock her. The zombies obey. Not perfectly. Not always. But enough to make a difference. For the first time since her capture, she possesses real weapon. And she intends using it. Eventually Barry and Benny reach the compound. The sight confirms their fears. Armed guards patrol the area. Military vehicles surround the perimeter. And hidden behind the walls lies the truth about Brooke's disappearance. The rescue mission begins immediately. The plan is simple. Get inside. Find Brooke. Get out alive. Unfortunately, simple plans rarely survive contact with reality. A zombie breaks loose. An alarm sounds. Gunfire erupts across the compound. Within seconds, everything falls apart. The carefully controlled facility descends into complete chaos. The infected pour through corridors. Scientists run for cover. Soldiers struggle to maintain control. Years of research collapse in a matter of minutes. And in the center of the disaster stands Brooke. No longer helpless. No longer afraid. Using her abilities, she directs zombies toward her captors. The same creatures the scientists experimented on suddenly become instruments of revenge. Meanwhile, Barry fights his way through the compound. Room by room. Hallway by hallway. Every obstacle standing between him and his sister is removed with brutal determination. The reunion finally arrives during the middle of the chaos. For a moment, everything else disappears. The zombies. The soldiers. The explosions. None of it matters. After everything they've endured, they're together again. And that's enough. Unfortunately, escaping proves even harder than getting inside. The compound is collapsing around them. The infected are everywhere. And Doc refuses letting his greatest discovery walk away. Even as the situation becomes hopeless, he remains obsessed with his research. Obsessed with understanding the infection. Obsessed with unlocking its secrets. The apocalypse has stripped away his humanity, leaving only ambition behind. The final escape becomes desperate race for survival. Vehicles roar through burning roads. Zombies swarm from every direction. Bullets fly. Explosions shake the landscape. The world seems determined to destroy everyone still living in it. Yet Barry, Brooke, and Benny keep pushing forward. Because stopping isn't option. Not anymore. Eventually they break free. The compound is destroyed. The experiments are finished. Doc's plans have failed. But the world itself remains broken. The outbreak continues. Civilization remains in ruins. And countless infected still roam the countryside. The battle for survival is far from over. Yet despite everything, Barry achieved the goal that drove him from the beginning. He found Brooke. He brought his family back together. And in a world where almost everything has been lost, that victory feels enormous. What makes Wyrmwood so memorable is its creativity. Most zombie films focus on survival alone. Wyrmwood constantly introduces strange and unexpected ideas. Zombie-powered vehicles. Psychic connections. Mad scientists. Road warriors racing across a post-apocalyptic wasteland. The result feels like a collision between zombie horror and a wild Australian action movie. At its heart, though, the story remains surprisingly simple. A brother searching for his sister. A family refusing to give up on one another. And ordinary people finding extraordinary strength when the world falls apart. Wyrmwood, Road of the Dead isn't just a zombie movie. It's a fast-paced blend of horror, action, dark comedy, and post-apocalyptic adventure. Filled with inventive ideas and unforgettable moments, it delivers one of the most original takes on the zombie genre in recent years. Because even when civilization collapses, some things remain worth fighting for. If you enjoyed listening to this narration, please like, share, and subscribe to Narrations for more movie stories, horror classics, and unforgettable adventures from the world of cinema. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.